Hey, what's going on, you guys? OldSchoolZerker here, and I just wanted to make a quick little video here explaining my opinion on whether or not I want Godswords Dungeon to be added to the game. Now, I've been seeing recently a few other YouTubers uploading videos about this and expressing their opinions on whether or not they want Godswords Dungeon to be added. And the reason I want to talk about this is not just that, mainly because Jagex said that they're going to be holding a poll here within the next week or two, I think, to determine whether or not they're actually going to be adding Godswords Dungeon to old school RuneScape. And I'll just get right into it. Basically, I think it should be added. Yes, I will be voting yes on that poll for Godswords to be added. Now, hear me out before you like or dislike this video. Just at least hear me out through the entire video before you like or dislike this. Now, a lot of people are saying, or I've been hearing, like, once Godswords comes out, people are going to be bitching for the Grand Exchange to also come into play, turmoil, overloads. I don't want that. I just want Godswords to be added. I think Godswords, like, they should add Godswords and then just cut it off right there. Just no more updates anywhere in the future. Just cut it off. I think right when Godswords was added, like, I think it was like August 28th of like 2007. Just that day, just stop it right there. No more updates. I think Godswords alone is an amazing update and made RuneScape an amazing fucking game. I thought RuneScape was at its prime, like right when Godswords came out. I thought like RuneScape was so awesome and fun back then. That was when I had the most fun on RuneScape. And that's, I don't want turmoil. I don't want the Grand Exchange. I don't want overloads. I don't want none of that. All that stuff is bullshit. I think those will ruin the game. I don't want declaws or any of that shit. Fuck that. But okay, so I guess the number one reason I want to get into explaining why I prefer Godswords Dungeon to be added is nothing is overpowered like everybody says. I think the biggest thing people are concerned about is the AGS, or the Armadillo Godsword. And in case you don't know what that is, and you just recently started playing EOC, say you're a noob and you don't know what that is. Basically, there's 4 new weapons that were added in the Godswords update, and Armadillo Godsword is like the one that can hit the highest and it's used for PKing. Just simple thing right there. Most people know what it is. You could look it up on the wiki or something if you want to get a better description of it. But everybody's complaining about how the AGS is going to be overpowered. And I just think to myself, like, what? What are you talking about? I don't get how anything in Godswords Dungeon is overpowered. Mainly because, okay, so people, they see the AGS, they're like, but AGS hits 70s, and all people do is prod spec with it, and they're fucking gay, and people rush, and I'm just like, what? That shit's already in this game. Like, what? I don't get what you're bitching about. So there's 4 other weapons in the game that can hit higher than the Armadillo Godsword, already in the game right now, as we speak. There are already weapons that can hit higher, just as high, if not higher. In fact, I know they can hit higher. I got a toy mouse than the fucking Armadillo Godsword. The most popular one being Dharoks, full Dharoks. That shit can hit high as fuck. Now, I know you have to have low hit points, but that thing's basically like having a constant AGS spec. If your hit points is even like half, you can hit like 50s and 60s with that. And all you have to do is just swing it. You don't have to have a special bar or anything. Like, you can hit 50s and 60s easily with Dharoks, full Dharoks. And then 70s are another potential hit too. I mean, you have to have a lot more lower hit points. And I'm talking PvP too. Like, people can hit 50s and 60s pretty easy with Dharoks. Like, you don't have to have, at half hit points, you could probably hit that pretty easily. So, Dharoks right there is already better than the AGS. And then the other weapons being the DDS, the Gmaul, and the Dark Bow. All of those have the potential to hit just as high and actually higher than the AGS. So, I don't get it how Rambo specking with a DDS is like a respectable, cool thing in PKing, But for some reason, when a God Sword, mainly the AGS, hits as high as a Rambo DDS spec, then apparently that's a bitch overpowered weapon. I don't get that. You can get, like, you could be sitting at 60, 70 hit points, and a DDS can Rambo spec you out from there. It's happened before, and it's gonna happen again. I mean, that's my opinion on that. And same with the armors. How is the armors overpowered? Bandos boots are shit, for one. Rune boots are, I mean, like, I guess if you want better defense, people usually don't want that. People are still going to be using rune boots and climbing boots or whatever. Bandos boots are shit. Now, the Bandos chest plate, yeah, it gives +4 strength, but so does the fighter's torso. So there's nothing different there. It gives more defense in the torso, but it also requires 65 defense. But people are considering it overpowered when Barrow's armors, such as Thorax and Dharoks, both give way higher defensive bonuses than anything in the Bandos set. Obviously, there's no Barrow's boots, so Bandos boots will be the best defensive boots. But still, it's not like you're gonna, like, for a PKing perspective, or from a PKing perspective, which is probably why most of the people that are voting no for Godswords, because they don't want it to be a part of PKing, because they don't like fighting people that don't skull in Bandos, and they consider it maxed gear. And it's just like, you're going to be fighting people in Dharoks, not skulling, if you're a Zerker peer like me, and you get, like, high enough to fight people in Dharoks. They're not going to skull on you when you're just risking Rune, and they're going to risk Dharoks. They're not going to skull on you. And they have a higher defense bonus than Bandos. And they also have full Dharoks, and can hit a 50 or 60 at any given point. But yet somehow people consider Armadillo Godsword and Bandos overpowered. I don't. It's pretty much the same exact concept. There's nothing different there. Armadillo, not many people. I mean, Armadillo, there's really nothing to complain about Armadillo about. It's just Armadillo. It was never. It's good, but I mean, Carol's is already shit, so it's not like Armadillo's killing anything anyways. Most people will still use Black D'hide just because it's pretty damn close to how good Armadillo is, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. So Armadillo's not really ruining anything there. Now, a lot of the Slayers are complaining about, oh, Godswords Dungeon is gonna crash Slayer drops, and that might make the amount of people wanting Dragon Boots a little less, but you gotta remember, most people right now are creating some sort of pure. A lot of people are creating 1 defense pures and Zerker pures. Like, that's just how it is right now. There is like hardly anybody who's creating a main, like going past, I'm talking about going for maxed main past 70 defense, no Barrows pure bullshit. There's hardly anybody on this game that is creating a legit maxed main or going for like a main account. Hardly anybody is doing that. And the reason why is because there's no incentive to. Like, all the bosses in this game are so fucking easy. I'm going to be a Zerker pure, and I could do like every boss in this game. I could go to DKs. I could go to KQ. I would admit I'm going to have a little bit more of a tough time at KQ, but I can still do it. I can do King Black Dragon, even though it's a joke. I can do the Giant Mole. I could do Barrows. Like, nothing's really a challenge in this game at this point. And PVMing's kind of like, PVMing didn't really exist. That whole community and type of people didn't really start existing until Godswords Dungeon was released. And it's just, it's either, like, there's just no PVM. Like, nothing's fun doing. All the bosses are just simple. And, there's not really any that good of drops. Like, you get the D-Chain, but that's really, like, the best drop you can get right now. And so everybody's going to be camping one boss, and that's it. And right now, the best weapon in the game and the best boots in the game can be camped at Necreals and Abyssal Demons. They're not bosses. They're just normal monsters that you need a high Slayer level for. And they can be camped. And as of right now in this game, as long as they don't add turmoil, overloads, or summoning, God Wars Dungeon is going to be a really big challenge. People aren't going to be able to just sit there and solo Bandos for like 2 hours straight without having to bank. You're going to have to go in there with like teams of at least 5 to kill Bandos at this point in the game. We don't have flasks. We don't have any of that shit that helps with PVM. So it's going to be a challenge, and it's not like that shit's going to ruin anything. And with the amount of, like, people are complaining about how, like, whips will crash and Rune Boots will crash. Rune Boots are still going to be in high demand, simply because there's hardly any in the game right now. So, I mean, they're still going to be worth a lot. And when you consider what I said about a lot of people creating pures, not many people are above 60 defense right now. And a lot of people are just making PKers. Like, that's what a lot of people are playing this game for PKing. So, Rune Boots are still going to have some value. Now, as for whips, nothing about God Wars Dungeon is going to crash whips. Whips are still going to be in just as high of demand as ever before. They'll probably be even more of demand, so that they can kill bosses even easier, such as Bandos and Zamorak, since they're typically the most popular ones, mainly Bandos, and you use melee to kill him. So people are going to want whips to kill him. Godswords do not... We've seen it before. When God Wars was released in real RuneScape, the original RuneScape, everybody wondered if Godswords were going to be the whip killer. And they obviously weren't. Godswords are shit for training. The whip is still the ultimate training weapon of choice. Like, it's the best training weapon. It's the best overall weapon in the game. It's still going to be, even after God Wars Dungeon. So whips are still going to be priced pretty high. And the demand for them is still going to be just as high. And all these slayers got to realize too is, Rune Boots and Whips, they're going to crash eventually anyways. If that's the main thing that everybody goes for in this game, if that's the only thing to go for, like the most expensive thing, like nobody really cares about the bosses right now. Everybody's doing Slayer and trying to go for that 85 Slayer so they can camp whips. And that's what everybody's going to be going for if God Wars isn't out. So, in a matter of speaking, whips are going to be dropping down to that 1 mil area pretty fast. If that's everybody's goal is going for 85 Slayer. Whips and Rune Boots are going to be pretty cheap, pretty quick anyways. So, God Wars Dungeon will just kind of like keep Slayer a good thing, People will kind of turn away from Slayer a little bit. And it'll keep Slayer, in a sense, more rewarding, because less people will be going for whips to make their big bank. They'll just be bossing. So if you did spend the time to get 85 Slayer, you'll still be getting rewarded. And another thing that people talk about is prod specs. I mean, I don't get that whole concept. I know I kind of already went over this, but it's just stupid. It's just something that people say to bitch about dying. Like, you're gonna get one hit by a dark bow, you're gonna get Rambo spec'd, you're gonna get rushed by a Gmaul eventually. Oh, that's another thing, rushing. People are acting like God Wars Dungeon brought rushing to the game. God Wars Dungeon created rushing. That's fucking stupid. Rushing is in the game right fucking now. The Gmaul. One of the best rushing weapons ever in the game, besides Dragon Claws. Gmaul is way better for rushing than an AGS, and everybody knows that. Because the Gmaul can fucking KO someone so fucking quick. You think about it, you ice blitz someone, and then you run up and hit them once with the Gmaul, and then you spec them twice. That's 4 hits right there. That's 4 fucking hits. Ice blitz can hit a maximum of what, like 20, 25, somewhere around there? I think it's like 25. And the Gmaul, if say you're wearing max strength, 99 strength, it can hit up into 40s. So you have the potential to one-hit KO someone a lot easier than an AGS spec. Because it takes a while to hit the second AGS spec, and in that time, it allows people to eat. The Gmaul, it's like all instant. Everything hits like instantly. So there's no time to eat in between hits. So rushing is already a part of the game, as we know it anyways. So I don't get how people think AGS created this rushing scene that everybody talks about. Everybody talks down on the AGS, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Also, another thing is Rangers can actually make a decent amount of profit in Godswords Dungeon, besides Armadillo. They can actually kill Aviansies, they're like a really good moneymaker. And it's a good way to train range. Right now, range is just boring as fuck. Like, the only thing the people get range up for is really for the fire cape. And that's about it. And then after they get it, they usually don't pay attention to it until they get enough money to get red chins. And then they just get it to 99. And it's a nice thing to have when PKing, but that's really all range is used for, is PKing and fire cape. Godswords Dungeon adds a couple more things to use range for, such as killing Kriara, I think that's the Armadillo boss's name, and killing Aviansies. So that's another plus. It makes getting ranged up even more useful. And also it makes the god items in the game useful as well. Like the treasure trail items that we all know and love, such as like the Zamorak plate body, the Ceradoman robes, the D-hide sets. Those will actually become useful in the game, rather than just looking cool. They'll actually prevent monsters from attacking you in the Godswords Dungeon. For those of you who don't know, if you wear an armor of a certain god, and so there's Bandos enemies, there's Armadillo enemies, there's Ceradoman enemies, and there's Zamorak enemies in Godswords Dungeon. And if you wear a Zamorak piece of armor, such as the Zamorak book, none of the Zamorak monsters are going to attack you in there. And so people wear multiple god items, so that they don't get piled whenever they enter. So that actually make the treasure trail items actually a lot more useful in this game. And this video has been going on for quite a while now. I just kind of wanted to get an explanation out as to why I want Godswords Dungeon to be a part of the game, why I'm going to be voting yes for Godswords Dungeon to be added into the game. And hopefully maybe I convinced you guys to want to add Godswords Dungeon as well. I kind of want to get an idea of how many people, even after listening to this video, still want it to be added, and how many people don't want it to be added. Leave a like if you want Godswords Dungeon to be added and agree with me, and leave a dislike if you disagree with me, basically. And, it'd be kind of cool if you'd leave a comment, too, as to why you think Godswords Dungeon shouldn't be added. Because I'm sure there are some valid arguments that, could go against me, and I would like to know. And I would like to compare and contrast all of the different arguments as to why it should and why it shouldn't be added. And then hopefully I can make a better decision when the actual poll comes out. We can all make a better decision when the poll comes out. So thank you guys for watching. If you actually made it through this whole video, thanks for listening to me go on about how I want Godswords Dungeon to be added. I know it was kind of a boring video, but I just wanted to get it out there. So I'll see you guys later.
We taking over the game. I knew